All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Legend of the Galactic Heroes, episode 16.
The last episode was a bit of a battle of sorts, or several.
Yeah, the Alliance is in full retreat.
Yep.
They kind of did a tactical regrouping around a specific planet. And
wasn't so tactical after all.
Yeah, it was more of a full retreat. And yet, you had Yang basically giving some good fear into the Empire fleet by reminding them that if they make overzealous blunders because the panties of the goddess of victory are being waved in front of your faces. Yes. Goddamn, Bittenfeld, you are a legend.
I hope he survives so that he can continue making lines like that.
Probably. But yeah, they still lost a good number of ships in this endeavor here.
A lot.
The Alliance will be running back with their tails between their legs, and it's not fully over yet, but
they will not recover from this easily, if ever.
Yes, things will be dramatically changing once they return. So Yang is probably going to be okay throughout all of this in terms of how he will be affected. However, I'm sure he will not be happy with what the changes end up being.
Right.
Because there will probably be more consolidation of power, more power given to the ruling body in the Alliance. And
that'll be just great.
Yeah, and they're probably going to have to defend the Isolon Fortress now.
Hopefully they give that responsibility to Yang.
Yeah.
Because he could at least do a good job.
Yeah. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, and then come back here for the discussion. All right, we got ourselves a lot of kind of covering the bases of what big things happen within the dominions of the Empire, the Alliance, and the Fejan Dominion, and understanding what kind of consequences of the actions that took place in this this invasion of the Empire, and leading to a lot of parties adjusting their standing within the factions and what have you. And then also just little surprises along the way, like the Kaiser passing away.
Right. And the fact that he passed away through natural causes, it's like, I love it because you were totally waiting for someone to assassinate the Kaiser, whether it be Reinhardt or someone else or whatever.
Right.
But the idea that, no, he just had a heart attack, there you go. You know, something that no one could have really predicted, and now all of a sudden things are thrown out of whack.
Right.
And a lot of Reinhardt's plans are set back because, he was planning to do it maybe a couple years later,
Yeah, in some ways he needed the influence that his sister had with the Kaiser to continue his movement up the ladder. But because of everything adjusting, I think the family parties surrounding Kaiser Joseph, what was his first name?
I didn't quite catch that, but I think...
But yeah, they basically said, Reinhardt, we're going to recognize you. Yep. You're a Marquis. Right. There you go. So basically they're building their alliance right there with the fleet commander in this case.
Yep.
But what's exciting about this is that means that character-wise, his sister is like free. Like she's completely free. Right. So the people that would have manipulated Reinhardt through the sister, they're no longer a threat, really.
Well, I mean, they may still try, because but she's a weakness.
Well, no, yes, I agree. But the thing is that she's no longer dictated by the Kaiser's whims, in the same measure, so that in that respect,
she
Reinhardt
could be whisked off somewhere safe.
Yeah, Reinhardt could hide her, and Reinhardt could even Reinhardt could even create a mini fortress or what have you of his own resources, and then just be like, yeah, these are all our people, and we'll be safe here.
Right, because she doesn't want to be a part of this. Like at this point, Reinhardt's a part of this, and he has his ambitions and everything. But from her perspective, she never wanted this in the first place, so she's done.
Right. In some ways, it would be cool to see her take up a different mantle as a character moving forward, but that chapter of her life is over, and that's a good thing for the long-term side of things.
Yeah.
We had the alliance readjustments of the military standings here. Trunit is now the temporary chairman of the political proceedings of the council, basically.
Right.
That was pretty predictable.
Yep.
It was something that he was obviously setting himself up to do.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, will he still have people on the council that keep him a little bit in check? I think there will be for the short term.
Right. He has less favor with other people probably because they've taken the fall for certain things that he was benefiting from.
But those people could be elected out, so to speak.
Because he has enough, because he's getting more power, right? And
more popularity.
And more like strong arm power, where he can just sort of do the things that he wants to do without manipulating other people. Mm-hmm. They become less necessary anyways. So, and that's the game he's playing.
Right. We also got to see the establishment of the alliance basically shift things around with regards to Sidolet, Khazul-Nu, Greenhill thankfully is still around.
Yeah.
But yeah, the high command is kind of split, in my opinion, between decently competent and then decently incompetent. Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly, Bucock had a little bit of stonewalling that he was doing at a specific point in the proceedings there. However, it's kind of cool to see that Kubersley, which if I remember correctly, he was a character that was showed off very early on in the proceedings for this invasion, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember.
I'm not sure exactly, but what I like is that Sidolet gave him passing grade, basically saying that that'll be good for things. Surprisingly, So that all is great. But Yang is now
Yang's in charge of Iserlon.
Yang's in charge of Iserlon, basically the most important piece on the Alliance's board table, if you will.
The smartest move that that has been made by the Alliance thus far, basically.
Is putting him there.
So give him the choke point and say, you do this, take care of it, and then just get out of his way. But given with all the stuff that's happening with the Empire, with the Alliance, with Fejan Dominion, and this Earth cult and all that stuff, I feel like it's something where there's going to come a point where Yang and Reinhardt, maybe not as much Reinhardt because he's a bit more chomping at the bit to do the political side of things,
right? But
there will come a point where Yang will probably long for the days when it was just fighting wars.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
When that was all that he had to do, because that's simple, right? Mm-hmm. Hold this checkpoint. There you go, right?
Save lives.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But deal with international different organizations and exactly it's weird stuff is about to go down.
So we end up having Yang talk with Frederica Greenhill about this idea that there's two current thoughts of inhuman society. The opinion that there are things worth more than human life, and then
and that there aren't.
Well, basically that. In the opinion that there's nothing preferable to life, basically.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, and saying that when people begin to fight, it's on the pretext of the former type of people, and then it justifies the latter when they stop. Wow.
Well, and it's funny here.
I can't disagree,
because. Well, there's two sides to it with what he's saying. There's the people think that there's something more valuable than their own life.
Yes.
Right? And then there's the people that think there's something more valuable than other people's lives.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Generally speaking, can I do something just to be worth the quantity of spilled blood?
Right.
That's okay, let's talk about history actually really quick. This is something that's rather dark, but I would say this is something that too easily gets kind of brushed aside with regards to people that win wars.
Okay.
So when you win a war, the other side was either totally destroyed or surrendered.
Right.
There's
not really any middle ground.
There's not really any middle ground.
Yeah.
Usually what ends up happening, if there's something else, it's a very obscure case where basically all sides agree that the war basically was
simultaneous surrender.
Simultaneous, not surrender, but it's the simultaneous just it was never really a war. It was probably a war technically, but I'm thinking of things like the 7 Years' War. I'm thinking of things where the conflict was one that was more posturing and movement for political gain rather than for resources and what have you.
Yeah, the surrendering doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's entirely giving up, but that if both,
an
sides,
armistice, if you will.
Yeah, an armistice. It's a compromise. They both figure out that they've gotten enough out of it, and the downsides they don't want to deal with. So
right, and this is specifically with regards to winning wars. But here's one of the things that in our nation's history we have as a couple blights, if you will, upon things here. Take the Vietnam War, for instance, there. Many people will kind of put out the point that it's actually kind of odd to say if anyone really won that war.
Right.
But I will say there was one side that stopped it, attacking at a certain point.
Right. Yeah.
The aggressor, if you will.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. Is there a point where basically certain wars kind of look at it as because we didn't win.
Does that mean we lost?
Does that mean that the blood spilt was pointless?
Gotcha.
Meaning that if we won, does suddenly all the blood mean it's worth something?
Well,
it gets really, really dark
if
when
there
you think
wasn't
about
at
it that
least
way.
an opinion of that, then the war probably wouldn't be fought in the first place.
But still, that's something that's pretty messed up to think about when you think about that. I've used the same words twice. Sorry, but it's pretty messed up when you realize that a lot of people will excuse the violent, just wholesale, just slaughter of people because the alternative to winning is worth more than the cost of X number of human lives.
There could be the idea of gaining something, conquering territory or things like that,
or then there's protecting people or something.
Well,
like
sure,
that.
yeah, like the common thing if someone's on the defensive is, we don't want to be conquered, destroyed, whatever, right? And then
so we're going to defend ourselves,
right?
Yeah. There are a lot of times in history where we've seen the aggressor in certain cases overwhelmed entirely by a nation, a people, or what have you, that rallied together to defend themselves against an overwhelming force, like the Nazis invading Russia, for instance.
The reason why no one attacked Switzerland other than the money.
Well, there's debates on that one there. But specifically with regards to this kind of bit, it's almost like a joke in nowadays culture for those that have basic level histories. You don't send a land. Don't involve a land war in Asia. It's a bad joke.
Yep.
But one of the things that we've seen in history is, the nation that's defending itself, in this case, like Russia, being invaded by the Nazis, they did whatever they could to make sure that we will not lose here.
Right.
Now, it makes it kind of cut and dry and simple, right?
Sure.
But imagine if you're essentially part of the invasion force in that case there. You're the alliance invading the empire, where it's like, we would be stupid to do this without a better plan, right? Oh no, 20 million people died.
Yeah.
This whole thing was stupid.
Right.
Why is it that then there's the people that are essentially saying like, you were a part of this. You were a part of this whole thing.
So we're going to
blame all of you. You're at fault. I'm like, yes, that makes sense. That makes sense in the grand scheme of things. But then what does that say about the war, though? wouldn't it actually kind of make the point of saying that maybe the war itself is pointless?
Well, yeah, it's the idea that war is not something that you should go to unless absolutely necessary, and maybe not even then, right? Yeah. So in a situation where it was done frivolously,
right,
that's pretty, insert expletive here, stupid.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's pretty dumb.
Right. And now this is definitely a battle. This is not a war specifically.
Right.
Here.
The war has been going on for a lot longer, and that's a whole other conversation.
Right. I just think that it's rather interesting to see that Yang brings up this topic, because you could extrapolate this to the Alliance and say, what just thing has the Alliance done that's worth the quantity of spilled blood? Was the oppression by the Empire really, like, so crazy? Maybe it probably was. Usually in these kinds of cases, it just gets really complicated. And
yeah,
there's
and
no easy answer.
And 150 years in, or whatever it is,
whatever
it's like,
it is. Yeah, I think it's 150. Yeah.
Yeah. They've forgotten why they're fighting. It's just, we're fighting because we're fighting. That's how it is, right?
Well,
the number of...
they've chosen a story behind it.
Yeah,
fighting
they have
for
a story.
Freedom against the oppressive regime.
Exactly. But
right.
But there have been so many generations after generations that have passed with
150 years,
with just war. That's how it is, right? So, it'll take a lot to stop that, right?
Yeah.
Like imagine for a second what that would be like. Like, I can't even imagine.
We have a small example in history.
The 100 Years War?
The 100 Years War between France and England.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a couple other countries that kind of got slightly involved with it. Mm-hmm. But that's a long, long time, especially when you consider the fact that this happened in medieval times, where the average lifespan was dramatically lower.
Sure.
Meaning that it was far more generations, if you will, of fighting than in some ways this war even.
Yeah.
Like, I would say in some ways it's way more, probably, with regards to the context of
how, like,
how many families
of a person. Yeah,
and what have you.
Although one of the things that is kind of interesting in this one, because back then in medieval times, you could just say, okay, it's medieval times. There's, information doesn't spread as far. Maybe it's a lot more linked to just,
it's a slower.
Yeah, exactly. Right, and it's something where, okay, maybe it's just take territory, give territory, all that stuff, and it just keeps going on like forever. Right.
It's just perpetuated because rather than having the idea of peace be preferred, it's just, we just really don't like those people across the water over there. So we're going to keep this fight up even when we're not really necessarily fighting 24/7.
And the little people don't have a voice. Now you could say that they don't have one here, but there's at least the pretense within the Alliance that they do.
Yeah,
there's definitely people that make it so that it's not quite so simple, and that they don't have as much of a voice as they would like.
Yes. Yes. And that's probably perpetuated because the war has gone on so long.
Right.
In some ways, yes, it would probably be a bit more static within something like the context of the 100 Years' War than it would be for here, because they would need to consistently ramp up the propaganda in the Alliance in order to excuse the war.
And also to get people to keep signing up. Like, there's the whole thing of how they have all these benefits for, like, if people, go into the military and all that stuff, and not much for the other things. And that definitely helps guide people in that direction. But it's not the same as, say, like, a noble going around and conscripting the peasants and just being like, all right, everyone above the age of 15, like, come with me, you're going to go over here and kill a bunch of people.
Right.
Like,
it's rather interesting. I would love to hear from Yang whether or not there was a point when the Alliance actually tried to broker for peace. But maybe it was a thing of where the Alliance couldn't ever convince the people to do it because of the fear of the Isilon Fortress being this perfect, like, redoubt, basically saying, this is the point from which the Empire can do any kind of attack they want.
And we can't retaliate.
Yeah.
So it's just, they'll keep attacking us.
Right.
Yeah.
And so because of that, the general populace, the propaganda is much easier than actually you'd think. It's because they've been
They are on the defensive. Yeah.
Right. And now that they've shifted things because of the win in the Isilon Fortress, that was why Yang was so excited, basically being like,
hey, this can end.
We could now do an armistice now. This is such a big deal. But because I'm just going to go in say it. Because Trunit, I'm just going to say is 100% in league with the Fejon Dominion. There's no way he's not at this point. Next thing, the fact that there's some kind of weird, super weird cult regarding Earth and how it was abandoned wrongly and how people will be punished for that. Holy crap. This is kind of the okay.
Illuminati confirmed.
Yes, exactly. When you have let's just say
secret dark cabal that's going to take over everything.
Yeah.
Like they literally did like the draped cloak and whatnot.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna, and he even had claw like nails and stuff.
Well, and what was it? What was the title?
High Bishop.
Grand Bishop.
Grand Bishop.
Grand Bishop. So,
oh God, we're bringing religion. Here we
go. So it really is a cult. It's not just it's not just a
I didn't even mean to have this be relevant.
Future war cult.
This is literally like a mistake. So I was telling Jacob before the reaction, I'm like, you know what? I just realized I have a great t-shirt for the Alliance. And he's like, what is it? I'm like, hold on, let me grab it. And I'm like, Future War Cult from Destiny. And he's like, that's not bad.
And my response was, I was like, well, it's also more like present war cult. Like, you know, like with how Trinit's doing things. But now we have an actual cult.
Future war cult.
Like,
you know what I think it is?
I
think it is the thing that basically perpetuates the war. Think about it this way. If you had humanity take to the stars at one point, and the people that were in power, probably some comment about secret organizations running the Earth right now. Who knows? That would be kind of funny if this is something the show gets into. But I'm not a conspiracy theorist in that regard. I'm just saying there's a lot of people who think that. That when you took to the stars, the golden age of humanity happens, and you basically get to expand all these new resources, these technologies. It gets so much better for average people and stuff because our mind is taken off of internal conflicts and taken to external exploration. What's really exciting about that is then these ruling like underbelly bodies of secret organizations then lose their real estate power. Essentially, they went from having like 90% shareholders to being like 2% shareholders, and they're like, curse you,
right? And theoretically, if they stay on top of their game, then they would probably be able to work the system so that way they still potentially they maintain their ratio, but maybe not.
In fact, in some ways, it might be because of that humanity regressed a little bit and went back to a more of a meritocracy, monarchy-based system where they needed some way to have direct control over all the systems to prevent...
Because otherwise it'd be too complicated.
Well, yeah, not only that, but to prevent, like, tons of Earths basically combating against each other.
Sure.
And this is what happened, and then the Alliance basically is born out of the natural kind of human response
consequence of that,
consequence of going too far into that.
Right.
So then this group has basically survived in the shadows and is like, we're going to use this war not as a mean to gain power again, but as a mean to actually put humanity back. Like, set humanity back so much further.
Right.
Then, it's the kind of the, I don't know what war World War III will be fought with. World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the cult is. It's a death cult specifically to just have humanity burn in on itself.
I will say though, this does get me a lot more excited for Fejon.
Because me too,
because the thing is, Fejon is so materialistic, or what's his name? Adrian
Rubinsky.
Adrian Rubinsky.
Yeah.
Right. Adrian, like,
that's a bad guy, right?
Yeah, and bald, and like.
Sorry for anyone named Adrian.
Yeah, but he's basically Lex Luthor with like, but worse vibes.
Galactic
Lex Luthor. Yeah. But the thing is that because he's so materialistic, I very much doubt that he's into any kind of death cult. Right? He might be working with them.
Oh, you don't think so?
Oh, I don't think so at all.
Oh, no. Oh, no, because his little monologue at the end, let me show you this here. He's like, all these parties and what have you.
Right.
But someone has to come out on top.
It's
probably going to be me.
Right.
Basically, he's in league with them, of course. He has no problems being in league with them.
Right, but but the thing is that they're just a tool to use, right?
Sure, but they might be more than just a cult. They're probably a lot of finances.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's plenty of things to it, right?
Right.
But the thing is that this is what he says after he stops talking with them.
I think it was right. I think it was internal thinking.
So well, okay, sure.
But either way, they didn't know about it.
They didn't know about this, right? This was after, like they're literally being all cloak and shadow, right? He's the I have nothing to hide. I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
And then, of course...
Chaotic neutral.
Right, and then, of course, after the transmission ends and he's in the darkness at this point, then he says, the one on top is going to be me. Chaos is a ladder, right?
Right.
And they're basically... their goals are aligned right now because they want to punish, all the people who fled Earth and all that stuff, so they're against the Alliance and Empire, which is what he wants to do, too, because then he can take over, and there you go.
Well, yeah, I just like it because it breaks down the good-evil thing that we already had broken down because of the politics of the Alliance and the infighting of the Empire.
Right.
So we know that neither side is good.
Right.
Or evil, even, necessarily.
But there's some dicks out there, though.
Yes, but Adrian Rubinsky is basically the third party that this kind of sci-fi conflict deserves. Right. He is a worthy foe. He has ties to all sides. That's another big strength of his. He is also probably going to use the Alliance's failure as a way to escalate his own standing within, not only their power structure, but within their space as an ally.
Right.
And then fourth, he literally orchestrated which Kaiser, which line of the Kaiser would take over.
That was a chilling.
The fact
scene.
that just happened all off screen,
right?
And we have no idea what the real movements of how that happened. We're just supposed to accept that it happened.
Yep,
that's really scary.
It's one of those things where money and a decent brain are the best superpower you could pretty much ever have.
We've seen what Batman and Iron Man can do from their respective universes.
But also in this situation, we're getting constant reminders of what the lack of those things do. Both from the economy standpoint of that they can't fight a war without funds and ships and all that stuff.
Sure.
But two, that when you have stupid forking idiots, empires fall, right? And so in this situation...
Or empires rise.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So... and the thing is that Reinhardt also is wanting to build his own, no galactic empire.
I mean, he hasn't started maniacally laughing or anything.
Oh, right.
So he's
totally.
I'd say he's fine for now.
Yeah, but he wants to conquer the universe.
Yes, that's true. Let's talk about this bar scene because this scene felt so out of place. So Muckenberger and Sidalet retire, and they kind of showed the parallels with that of how the new generation is taking over.
And that was really cool.
But I think then they went. I'm pretty sure this is Fejon, this planet here with the big ascended pillar into the sky and what have you.
It might be, I'm not sure.
And then it says Bar Dracker. You say Fejon is fishing in troubled waters, that making the Empire and Alliance share the same fate. It's like, you have a conspiracy theory about how they're doing that? It's like, that bastard Rubinsky. It's insanity, isn't it? Now it's basically saying this rumor is something that within Rubinsky's... the people that know Rubinsky, or the very least that have any kind of connection to him, see that level of insanity popping up, and then immediately after this, they showcase the Earth Cult. They even mentioned the Earth Cult here in this scene, basically just setting it up there. But they're saying, Fejon's just a parasite. And so, although if the landlord is beaten, we can't help but all fall together. Now, the name of this person is Boris Konev. There is someone in Yang's circle. He's just a low level, or he's like an officer, basically. Not a crazy high officer, but his name is Ivan Konev. And now I'm like, they're brothers? Family? What
exactly is the situation
here? What's
going
on here? And then someone else comes up saying, and he says, "Oh, number one, will you have a drink too?" Why does he call him number one when very clearly we get an actual title for his name? We get a... Where they say his name somewhere here. The guy that came up with him here. Let me see if it... Yeah, Marinesque.
Marinesque, yeah.
And I don't know. He calls him Captain Konev. So
wait a minute.
Just the name number... The name, he has a name and he calls him number one.
Yeah.
That literally sounds like, hey...
Your code name.
Your code name.
Right.
Why would you have a code name?
Also... Also, the whole bit with the transporting a pretty young girl or whatever. Now, granted, he was asking if that was what it was, right?
But that's not what they were doing. They were
but
transport a few people.
Transport a few people. Some pretty wealthy young lady. It's part of pilgrims going to Earth. Okay, gotcha.
The Earth Cult again.
Yeah, necessity is hard. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right,
So
that was just
setting up-
introducing the Earth cult and sort of what they're kind of about, not some high-profile thing that they're going to be doing. Okay.
Right. I think this is more just tying in that the people that are pilgrims going to Earth are people that are kind of the equivalent of those going back to visit a holy site.
Yeah.
So, you know,
it's a pilgrimage. Yeah.
It's a pilgrimage. Yeah, exactly. But then immediately after that, we switch over to... Oh, no, it is definitely the Fejon, because
they show the spire. Yeah.
They show the spire in the background. So it's all these little subtle things where I'm like, ooh, this is the intrigue kind of stuff that I'm like, I live for this. Also, High Bishop, there's no way this is anyone we know of.
But this is a Palpatine-looking mofo if I ever have seen one. Like...
Yeah, and he did kind of call him out of being like, hey, don't double-cross us.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, boy. But Yang has his actual, like, staff
Yang
now.
has his staff,
He has people with him that can be competent and stuff in a similar way to Reinhardt.
Let me show you, just so you can see which member of his staff is a Konev.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Aerial Corps Chief, Lieutenant Commander Oliver Poplin, and then Lieutenant Commander Ivan Konev.
Gotcha.
So it's just like...
Yeah.
Because they did the thing with...
going to be with that?
Right. Who knows? But there's the thing with Frederica Greenhill and then Admiral Greenhill, of course, and it's just the acknowledgement that, there's a little bit of a family thing going on there. Mm-hmm. And the family ends up being a theme more into the future, like with how Julian is kind of like a younger brother to Yang. I could see... Mm-hmm. I could see some interesting things going on. Oh, wait, family's totally a theme with the sister.
Oh, yeah.
Lady Enerose, yeah.
And it is a very nice way to... One, throw in some red herrings because we're like, okay, is there going to be something with the fact that those two are related or not? But then also to just add additional meaning to the extras that are in here.
Yep.
Because one of the things in a story like this, because the scale's so big and, 20 million died, right? Now that's horrible. That's
it's
a
hard
number.
To quantify.
But you can't quantify that, right?
Yeah.
You know, when it's an individual, that's something that you can understand. Mm-hmm. So in the situation here, the fact that, Lieutenant Commander Ivan Konev, he's serving under Yang, right? And then over in Fejon Dominion, there's his brother or dad or, cousin or whoever, right? And they're also over there, right? So this random extra, instead of just having them be a random extra, we'll have them be a relative, and then that way you can see how the people are connected. So if, say, Ivan Konev were to die, that's something that would hit this person specifically.
Right. Or at the very least, if we see these two just interacting or having Ivan Konev mentioning how he hasn't seen his brother in such a long time.
Exactly.
It's just setting up potential future conflict drama in a very cool way. Right. And given that this show has too many damn characters, which is awesome. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
It gets me excited about exploring what relationships there are set up for the ones that aren't obvious.
Yep, because this can basically be them setting this up for later of like, hold that thought, just know that we're going to maybe do something with these two characters eventually, but not for a while.
Yeah, this is a tangled web we weave.
Exactly. Yep.
And Fejon continues to practice to deceive.
Yeah. I gotta say, though, I really appreciate Kierheis addressing Reinhardt in private with the
we haven't even talked about that.
Yeah.
Oh
with
my
the whole
gosh,
thing with Bittenfeld, because on the one hand, Bittenfeld did screw up. He screwed up.
Yes.
Now, because you can't get too distracted with the panties of the Goddess of Victory, right?
Right. You can't dive as a melee, character into a 1v4. It's just not.
And even if that had worked, the fact that there were casualties, that ended up being something later where Yang was able to push on that. Yeah. I love that because it's something where there's actually like permanent consequences to the dwindling strength of the fleet. Even if you're stronger than, the enemy, there are parts where you've taken damage. And I really like that. Because otherwise it can feel sort of like Reinhardt is just winning with no consequence,
Sure.
But actually seeing where there's a cost is really cool. But then also just the idea of, hey, Reinhardt, you're the person who within your subordinates, they're all family. You know all their names and all that stuff, right? Like that's really good. Don't forget that, right? Yeah, he messed up, but he knows he messed up. You know, he wasn't trying to excuse it or anything like that.
So, I like also that it further sets up more of Oberstein and Kierheis as being the two people that kind of pull on Lohengrin from different
Right.
different angles.
And
also, it's exciting because now as Lohengrin gets more powerful, the people around him vicariously get stronger.
Yeah.
So their
high tide rises all ships.
Yeah, exactly. So their advice and wisdom and insight ends up becoming more dramatic in its consequences.
Yep.
And I would love to see, in some ways, because this show seems to do that, the idea of far-reaching consequences in a good way, like Bittenfeld being trusted in some way, being something where Bittenfeld comes in clutch way later.
And he's like,
because he learned his lesson in this case.
Yeah, exactly. Like you gave me a second chance, so I will die for you. Like,
right. It's probably the instance of where Muckenberger would have been an enemy of Reinhardt if Reinhardt threw him out way back when.
Exactly.
But because he didn't back then, now he basically warns Braunschweig and the other, I think it was Littenheim, the one family that could have been a potential heir, and then the other guy who was the prince that was slighted way in the past. They're like, we can collaborate and make this whole thing happen. And he's like, nah, bitch, like you guys
don't.
He's a genius of politics and war. Do not do this, otherwise there will be costs. And then he just passes him, and
like
there's
a boss.
Yeah, there's honor amongst those that show, I would say, deference.
Right. And didn't they salute each other?
They did, I believe.
Yeah, and that's something that was really cool, because it's like, granted, that's part of, protocol, I'm guessing, but it's also a level of acknowledgement and respect that, Reinhardt didn't have from him in the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, one thing that I think is important to note. So Oberstein made a comment about Kircheis that, like, that
just because you're friends doesn't mean there's still military protocol and all that.
While Reinhardt does a very good job of running a tight ship, and the thing that he did with Bittenfeld, he's going to have a loyal subject in Bittenfeld.
Hopefully,
hopefully for life.
Right.
Oberstein is an outsider. Oberstein does not have. Oberstein is not actually, like, he says he's loyal to Reinhardt, but it's different. And he's not loyal to Kircheis necessarily or anything like that. Right. So I could definitely see there being something where he causes trouble later down the road.
He is not loyal to the dynasty that rules the empire, but he is loyal in slight respects because he basically stated it to Reinhardt.
Yeah.
And I would say that Reinhardt will cultivate the family of admirals and what have you that they all are. They'll become like brothers and such. I think Oberstein will have opportunities to become more ingratiated into their mix, but because he is more here for the direct line to Reinhardt, I could see, instances where he specifically tries to remove other voices.
Because that felt to me like jealousy, and jealousy is where, where bad things happen.
Yeah, I also like that Reinhardt was the one that actually tried to hey, cut the Your Excellency stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Reinhardt Sama.
Right.
And he still used an honorific.
Yep.
But the point is that Reinhardt is the one that's actually kind of breaking protocol.
Yes.
More so than Kircheis.
And there could come a point eventually where he doesn't do that. Where like there could be a point where he says,
it's Your Excellency in public.
Yeah,
exactly. I don't mind if you do this in one-on-one, but
something like that.
Yeah, I think that's just natural.
Though. Oh yeah, in public, sure, but like there could be a point where it's done in like because the friendship between them, that's what keeps Reinhardt doing so well. So if that ends up getting damaged,
Also, it's kind of just a setup. Kircheis is such a good boy.
Yeah,
there's almost no way he can survive this whole show. Like I would love him to. But in some ways, you kind of know that people like Oberstein and Kircheis both have to go eventually.
Right. Especially because once Kircheis is gone, or at the very least separated from Reinhardt, that's where Reinhardt can actually have things start to go badly.
I mean, but he can have things go badly just by introducing the third party more prominently.
Exactly.
Or have, like you said, the Empire go into a civil war.
Right. Yeah, this is a great example. Yeah. You know, a 5-year-old that you answer to.
Oh, boy. We saw how that worked in Game of Thrones, basically.
Yeah.
Well, in the books, But, y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there. And all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general. And you can also talk with Jacob about the sci-fi novel that he wrote.
Yep. I wrote a sci-fi novel. It's called Battle Lines. It's awesome, and it's on Amazon. Link in the description below. go check it out.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.